Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we shall be learning how to create a Python sidebar menu, as you can see here, that actually has context menus, as you can see. So as you can see, I click on these, I can actually switch to different pages just perfectly right, as you can see right here. Let's switch to student information page, transactions, there we go. Then I can actually also expand this, and when I expand this I actually have drop down menus, as you can see here. So clicking here I can also go to student info page, student payments. Then I can actually open any of these at any moment in time as I actually choose. How do I do this in Python? Find out in today's video. Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Emmanuel Olega. Welcome to my channel, Create Beautiful Things. As you've seen, today we shall be doing a mega project. So this is more like a school management system that shall have a side menu with drop downs, with context menus, as you can see, as I've illustrated before. So it's going to be one long ride, but I believe that with every single step that you will follow, you'll be able to master what I'm going to teach in this video. So if you're new to this channel, I encourage you to join the community by subscribing, and then make sure to hit that notification bell so that you get updated every single time I upload a new video. So, all right, get your PC ready and then let's learn something new. Now that we've begun, the first thing we're going to do is to open Qt Designer. And inside here we're going to create a new template. So we're going to create a template with main window. So make sure it's selected and click create. So once we have it there, we can now get rid of this QMenu bar. So we won't need this. Remove that status bar. Just click remove. Now I want to make sure that the width and the height are set to certain values that we actually want. So now I'm going to set this to 1, 2, 3, 1. Click enter. Then I'm going to set this to 8, 6, 7. Alright, so that's how my project is going to be. Alright, so now that we've done that, I want to show you something very quickly. Alright, so on my desktop I have a folder I've created. It's a folder called school, and inside that folder there is another folder called icons, and this will include all the different accessories we shall use in this project. So as you can see, this includes different PNG files that we shall be using as icons on the different buttons. As you can see, there are those with arrows facing up, arrows facing down, and there is a logo here. You can see a profile image here and more like that. So I'm going to make sure to share this with you in the description, so make sure to check it out. So this is where I'm going to be saving everything that we use. So I'm going to go back here and then I'm going to click save as. So I'm going to save this window here. So I'm going to go back to the desktop, look for school, so I have it there. Then inside here I'm going to save this as index.ui and then click save. Alright, so now we've saved our template here. So now next we're going to insert some widgets. So search for widgets. So now we're going to make use of this widget here. So we're going to have different widgets. So we're going to have that for the icon only side menu and that for the icon with the different items. So now click Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So I have actually duplicated that. So now actually I have the second one. Now this one I want to make sure it's a little bit wider. I think just make sure the width is around 244. You know what? Why not? So this is going to be it. So now click Ctrl C, Ctrl V so that we have another duplicate of it. So I want to make sure to have that for the main screen. So the main screen is where we're going to have our stacked menu, where different items change. So it's like the different pages that shall be part of the project. So click Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and then let's duplicate this again right at the top. And there we go. So that's going to be representing the header. So now let's actually rename these. So I'm going to call this the icon underscore only widget. And I'm going to call this icon underscore text widget. And I'm going to call this the main underscore screen underscore widget. And I'm going to call this the header underscore widget. Alright, so there we go. So now we're going to just give this a different color. Let's give this a different color so that you can actually see it clearly. So we're going to make sure that the main screen is selected. Go to change style sheets. Let's change its background color. And let's give it something light green. You know what? That shall work. Alright, that's just that it's visible. Alright, so we're going to do something similar to each one of these, but we're going to take that one step at a time. So the next thing is let's actually insert some push buttons. So I'm going to insert one push button here. So there we go. Click Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Then I'm going to insert another push button there. Now next I want to insert some labels. So let's select labels. So we're going to have one label in the icon only widget, and then here we're going to have one and the second one. So one is going to be representing the logo at the top, and the other one shall be representing the text next to the logo. So here we're going to change this text to school. Alright, so now that's what we have. Now the next step is we're going to remove the text inside here, because we won't need any of it. We're going to be making use of the different icons that we have in our resources. So now we're going to create our resources page. So we're going to go here into the resource browser, then we're going to click here. So now go back to where we have our project. So here is our project. We're in the folder school. So we're going to create resources. So that's actually a QRC file, and then we're going to click save. Then inside here we're actually going to remove this prefix. Click backspace and click enter. So make sure there's no prefix. Then click on this. Then we're going to select every icon inside this icons folder. Click Ctrl A on your keyboard and click open, so that we now have everything loaded. Then click OK. So once we've done that, we now have all our resources available for use. So now we're going to go here, make sure this is selected, and then we're going to make sure to swap this with our logo. So we're going to go here to the Pixmap, choose resource, go to the icons, and then search for this logo right here. Then click OK. Now we want to make sure it's scaled properly, so just make sure this is selected. Then we're going to go here to the top, go to where we have the width, set this to 40 by 40. Okay, that looks good now. Then make sure the maximum width and the height are also set to 40 by 40. Alright, that's more like it. Now go on to the same thing here. Actually, you know what, let's click delete this, and then we're going to duplicate this, Ctrl C Ctrl V, because we're going to be making use of the same exact logo right there. Alright, so now that we have these logos here, we're now going to change the background colors of these widgets. So we're going to go to change style sheets, then let's type QWidget curly brackets, then inside here we're actually going to insert the background color. So go here to have add color, then we're going to add that black. Alright, so now let's click apply, and now it has actually changed to black. So don't worry, our button is still here. So we're going to now insert an icon. So go to where we have the icons here, then we're going to choose resource. Then now we need to search for dashboard small. So dashboard small 1 is what we want. So it's actually this big one here. Then click OK, and as you can see, it's actually showing as we wanted. Now that's what we're going to be doing. Now click Ctrl C Ctrl V. Now we're going to be duplicating this more than once. Actually, I'm going to need more copies of this. Alright, then let's actually have 2 right here at the bottom. Now we're going to swipe this. Now go here, choose resource. Then now we're going to insert that for institution. So we're going to look for institution small 1 and click OK. Now this needs to be scaled even more. I'm going to increase it a little bit. Let's increase that to 100. I think that's looking better. Then now we're going to also swap this. Now here we're going to choose students. So we're going to search for students small. I think this is actually going to do the job. Click set this to 100. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's set this to, I think that's too much, 20. Okay, 20 will do it. Alright, so now we're going to change this also. So now we're going to insert the teachers small. So here it is. Alright, so we're going to scale it also a little bit. Let's increase its height a little bit. Let's set that to 20. 25 is too much. 20. Alright, 20 will do a good job. Now we're going to set this also to the finances small. PNG icon, where is that? So it's at letter F here. Alright, so there we go. Let's increase this to 100. 20. Alright, that's looking good. Then we're also going to swap this. This is going to be one that represents settings. So let's look for settings. Settings small, white. Now we're going to set this also to 100. And the height can be 20. Alright, that's looking good. Then this shall be sign out small. So that's going to be the white icon that represents sign out. Alright, so here it is. Then we're going to set this to 100. Alright, I think that's actually a perfect size, so we can actually leave that as it is. So as you can see, our icon is actually now starting to look more realistic. Alright, now we're going to make the same change here. We're also going to change the background color here to black. Now we're going to make some copy. So let's copy this, the settings we have here, and we're going to copy them to the style sheet of this widget here. Then let's click apply. Now everything is still there, it's just that we cannot see them. Let's actually change the background color of this text here. But before we do that, let's actually make the changes here. Now here inside the Q widget, I'm just going to set the color to white. That means every kind of text in it shall actually be set to white. Alright, so now inside this button here, we're also going to insert some icons. Now I'm going to insert that called dashboard 2. Alright, so let's scroll down to where we have the icons. Then we're going to look for dashboard 2. So this is dashboard 2 right here, and click apply. I'm going to increase this in scaling. Let's actually stretch this out a little bit more. Alright, so that's looking good. And I believe this can be set to 60. Alright, so that's actually looking good. I think everything is perfectly visible. Now I'm going to duplicate this, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Now I want it to happen the same number of times as the other icons that we actually have. Alright. Alright, so now we're going to switch this to actually this is going to be institution small. Actually, no, it's institution 2. So we're going to set that to institution 2. So this is institution 2 PNG here. I think that looks that height is a little bit too much. Let's set this to 45. Alright, I think that's okay. Maybe we reduce this width a little bit. Let's try 95. Alright, but that's actually okay. We can actually leave it now. Alright, so now this is now going to also be set, but now when it comes to students, we're actually going to look for that called students 3. Let's look for students 3, because now we're dealing with those that actually have drop downs. Now let's scroll down to where we have students. Now students 3 is here, so this is it here. And we're also going to increase it, but we're going to set its width to 200, because for it will take more for it to become bigger compared to the others. So we're also going to do the same thing here. We're going to look for teachers 3. That's the name that I chose to call the icon. So here it is. And we're also going to set its width to 200 so that it's actually really visible. Alright, so that's actually much more visible. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Now this is for finances. We're going to look for finances 3. I believe this is it. Alright, set that to 200. Then let's make sure it's visible. Alright, that's much visible. Let's actually increase the height a little bit. Alright, that's actually okay. Let's change this to settings. Let's change the settings icon also. Settings 2. Alright, so this is settings 2 here. I think that's okay. It can be 100 by 60. The point is everything just has to have the same uniform size. Let's also look for that for signing out. So we need sign out 2, and here it is. Click OK. Alright, so that's actually looking good. So now we have those that actually will be dealing with drop downs. So now let's first handle those. So we're going to first drag them here onto the main screen. So we're going to make use of this. Now we're going to create the drop downs and the different sub menus. Now search for a frame, and then we're going to insert a frame right here. So let's actually create that part of it. Alright, so let's start with the students. So first of all, we're now going to search for push buttons. So now these shall be the different sub menus under manage students. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So actually we're going to have 3 different sub menus under this. Now we're going to change the text inside. So this first one shall be student information. And this shall be student payments, and we're going to need that for student transactions. All right, so there we go. So now we have it. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So actually duplicating the whole frame with all the information inside it. So we're going to need to create one for the teachers. So it shall be, so just change this to teacher information. Now we're going to need to have one for teacher. Teacher salaries. Then this shall be representing teacher transactions. Alright, so now select the frame, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Then now we're going to have one for under the finances. So the first one is budgets, the next one is expenses, and the last one shall be for business overview. Alright, so now that we have that, we're going to create now one more frame for each one. Now let's create another frame. Alright, so this is now the bigger frame. This shall be the frame that shall contain everything. Now you know what? This frame here that actually holds the different submenus, let's call that students underscore. Let's actually space this a little bit so that you can actually see what I'm typing. Students drop down. Then we're going to call this teachers underscore drop down. Then this we shall call finances underscore drop down. Alright, that's actually much better. Now we're going to combine them together. So now we're going to put manage students inside the frame first, then we're going to select this other frame, the students drop down, then we're also going to put it inside that frame. So that's actually what we're going to be doing. Let's actually insert another big frame here. Alright, so now insert, actually you know what, let's actually duplicate and have both of them, one for the finances and one for the teachers. So we're going to insert manage teachers in, then we're going to insert the frame that has the drop downs also. So insert this and then also the frames with the drop downs. Alright, so now we actually have it in order. Alright, so now we're going to name this frame here. We're going to call this students. We're going to call this frame here teachers. Spell that properly. And we're going to call this finances. Alright, so now go into the frame. So now we're going to go into the students drop down frame here. Then we're actually going to create some vertical alignment. Let's make sure everything is vertically aligned, as you can see. We're also going to create vertical alignment here for the teachers. Alright, and also going to do a vertical alignment for the finances here for their drop down items. Alright, so after that we're now also going to do the same thing here. So now we're going to create a vertical alignment for everything here. So now we're going to create, now we're selecting the whole students Q frame that has everything, then we're going to create a vertical alignment. As you can see, it's actually looking good. Also create another vertical alignment here for where we have the manage teachers. Then lastly we're going to do that, let's actually move a little bit to the right so that we can actually see everything here. Let's do the same thing here. So now we actually have vertical alignment. As you can see, not all the items look like they're the same size, but don't worry about that, we shall handle that later. So for now we just want to make sure that everything is actually functioning the way we would like. Now something first that we're going to do here is we're going to create the different versions of this. So what happens is go inside, select this button here, then we're going to create the other alternative version of this. So what happens is when a user clicks on this button, so in the when the submenu is actually hidden, we want to make sure this arrow faces downwards. So that actually means we shall have to have another PNG image inserted right here. So now we're going to look for students 4. So it's actually, I called it students 4 for this case. So this is it here. Click OK. So it shall be on the side of the normal on. So that is what happens when actually this button is clicked on. So we're going to look for teachers 4 also. click OK. Then we're also going to look for finances for PNG. Alright, so there it is. Alright, so what happens when we click on them, there shall actually be a change. Now let's make sure that each one of them is actually set to checkable. So this is checkable, this is checkable, and also this shall be checkable. Actually, each of the items inside here should actually be checkable. What that means is they can actually be clicked on and something will happen. So that's actually very, very important. So make sure you actually do that quickly in a few steps. Alright, so once we've done that, we now can test it to see how it works. Now let's first test this in preview. As you can see, when I click on this, you can actually see that it actually changes form. So it changes from students 3 to students 4. As you can see, the arrow in students 4 actually faces downward. So you can actually see that it is actually working as we wanted. Now we actually want to make sure this drop down here actually is hidden every single time that a user clicks on this top button here. As you can see, when I click on them, they actually change. But this is incomplete. So now let's go here to where we actually set slots and signals. So when we have this set, we're actually going to select this and then point to the frame that actually has the drop down menus. So we're going to make sure that when this is toggled, that means when this is clicked on here, something will happen. So we're going to hide this frame down here. So we're going to click OK. Then we're going to do the same thing here. So when this is toggled, so click where is toggled. So here it is. We're going to set hidden. Actually, that's actually how it's supposed to be. I think I made an error there on the first one. We're actually supposed to choose set hidden. So when this is clicked on toggled, we're going to set hidden that keyframe right there. Let's actually make a correction here. So when this is toggled, it's actually supposed to set hidden. Alright, let's test this out and see what will happen. As you can see, when I click on this, you can actually see the drop down menus are actually hidden every single time we actually click on the button at the top, and that's actually what we want to see. So it's actually working perfectly. Alright, so now we can go back to the edit mode. Now select this frame that actually has students, then we're going to scroll down, then we're going to set every margin here to 0. So actually don't need any spacing there. So set everything to 0 here also for the teachers, and we're going to do the same thing here. Alright, then click enter. Alright, so now that we have that, we actually, alright, sorry about that. Now we're going to have students. So students, so the order is going to be like this. Alright, so we just have to be careful here. So every time I click on this, I have to make sure that I actually select the students first, select teachers, then let's actually first place these to the side. Don't worry about them, we shall actually correct them later. Let's actually select this also. Alright, so once we've done that, we can now select all these different icons. So I want to make sure that I have these 2 icons here selected. Make sure you hold Control while doing that. Then Control, select students here. They're going to select teachers. Then we're going to select finances here. Now once we've done that, we can now set vertical alignment. So that's going to be very, very important in this case. So set a vertical alignment for each one of them. Alright, so now we're going to bring this back here, and also going to set a vertical alignment for these 2 here. Make sure to select Control while selecting both of them, and then we set a vertical alignment. So now not everything is actually to the size that we actually want, but don't worry about that. We shall correct that in a few minutes. Alright, so now we're going to select some spacers. Let's go back here, then we're going to select a vertical spacer here. So we're going to place a vertical spacer here, so it will allow us to actually have some space in between these 2 items. Then we're also going to place another vertical spacer here in between these items here. And now, and then next, we're going to increase the font size of this statement school. Go to where we have its point size, change that to 20 leave this as it is, then select bold. Alright, so that's more like the heading of the app. Then we're going to select both of them. Make sure to hold Control while selecting both of them, then click horizontal align. Right, that's actually looking pretty good. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Now we're going to select horizontal spaces. We're going to place 2 of them, one on the right hand side of this icon, because I want to make sure this icon is actually situated towards the middle. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and then we're going to have one on its left. So select this, click Ctrl, select this, Ctrl, select this, then we're going to horizontally align them. Alright, that's going to be very, very key. Alright, so now one thing that we've forgotten to do, remember we did it here, so created a different version for each one of these. So we're going to set version 2 for each of these buttons also. Now here we're actually going to set this to, alright, so go scroll down, go to where we have normal on, and we're going to set that to dashboard 2. And then we want that to happen every single time it's actually clicked on. Actually we set that to dashboard 1, so that it actually changes to green every single time it's clicked on. Now set this also to institution 1. Where is that? It's actually this green. And then we're also going to do the same thing here. Actually this has actually stretched beyond the boundary that I actually want it. Let's actually stretch it back in. Don't worry about the sizes for now. So we've done that for institution. We're also going to do that for settings. Scroll down to where we have normal on. We're going to set this to settings 1. So here is settings 1. Click OK. We're going to do the same thing here for for the sign out 1. Select sign out 1. Here we go. Then now here we're also going to make the same changes, but now we're going to set this to dashboard small 2. You'll see the effect in a few minutes. Actually I actually set this to the wrong one. This is supposed to be set to dashboard small 2. Where is that? This is actually it. So it's actually this big dashboard in green. Let's do the same thing here. So this is institution in green. Then we're going to look for students in green. So that's actually what we want. Do the same thing for teachers. Now I'm going to do that very quickly for each one of them. Alright, so now that we have that, we can now proceed to align the rest of the items. So now we're going to select each one of these. Make sure to hold Ctrl as you select them. Then I'm going to vertically align all these items. Alright, so they're actually aligned properly now. And also going to do the same thing here. Make sure they're both selected, then vertically align them. Make sure to hold Ctrl whenever you do that. Alright, so that's actually looking good now. Alright, so now we're going to go back and set the style sheet of this. Now we're going to go and set the style sheet of all QPush buttons inside there. So we're going to type in QPush buttons. Now we're going to set the heights to 30 pixels. Let's click apply. And we're going to set the borders to none. Click apply. Alright, so I actually had a typing error, so make sure this is set to singular and click apply. And as you can see, each one now actually has the same height, and that's actually something that we needed to do. Alright, so now select the vertical layout here, and then we're going to compress everything. Alright, so now we actually have it looking much better. So don't worry about the spacing. So actually we're going to correct that right now. So now we're going to select this dashboard button here. Then we're going to, so I want to make sure it actually aligns with this perfectly. So type in QPush button. You curly brackets. So we're going to type in padding left, set that to 60 pixels. Negative 60 pixels, and click apply. And I believe that right now at this moment it actually aligns perfectly with that. Then one more thing, we're going to copy this again. Then we want to make sure that when it is actually checked, something actually happens. So now click here, type in checked. So when it is checked, we want to set its background color to white. Click apply. And then we want to make sure that its border radius, so type in border radius shall be set to 3 pixels. Click apply. Then okay. Now I believe that I should have set this to checkable. I may have forgotten to do that. Let's do that very quickly. So we're going to do that for the remaining ones that I actually had forgotten to do. So I won't speed that quickly. Alright, so let's see what happens very quickly. As you can see, when I actually click on this, you can actually see that it actually changes. So that's actually what happens. So when each button is checked, it actually changes to the second version of it. And now what I wanted here, as I've set right now, is when I actually click on this, it actually sets a white background, and as you can see, that's the border radius right there. So I'm going to do the same setting for the others. Let's go to this institution here, and then we're also going to do the same setting. Let's actually copy this, its settings, Ctrl C, and then we're going to paste them to the style sheet here. Remember, everything is different, so let's actually test this. We just want to make sure it actually aligns properly with the rest. Click apply, and I believe that that's actually the right position for it. Let's actually copy everything here also, and we're going to make sure that we also make sure this is also aligned properly. Ctrl V. So let's see what happens when we have this at negative 65. Click apply. As you can see, it's actually working. Copy the same settings here. Click apply. I believe we can actually push it a little bit to the right. Let's make sure it's negative 60. Click apply. I believe that's actually working right. Alright, so next we're going to deal with the different submenu items. Now let's copy the exact. Alright, so let's copy the stylings here, then we're going to make some changes. So now when it comes to the submenus, we're going to do things a little bit differently. Now we're going to change the padding left here. Let's actually sample this and let's see what happens when it's actually at 20. And make sure that it is aligned to the statement manage students here. Then now here we just want the color to change, not the background color this time. Because now we don't have icons, we actually just want to deal with background color. So I want to make sure this, I want to set this to hover, so I want to make sure it's actually hovered on. This color will change to hash, so it's going to be a certain version of light green, 12B298. Click apply, and I believe that it's now actually aligned properly. Let's actually see what happens. View that. As you can see, it's actually working. Alright, so next we can see that it actually works perfectly. So I'm going to do the same settings here. So I'm going to copy this, then I'm going to apply the same settings here. Now I measured and I realized that if we set this with the padding left of 11, it will actually align properly. So it's actually working as you wanted. So click OK. Then we're going to go here. Then we're going to do the same thing, but here we're going to have the value as 25. Click apply, so it's actually aligned properly. So I'm going to do the same thing for all of these. Now here in this case, I found out that the right value is 20 pixels for the padding left. Click apply, that's okay. Click OK. Then we're going to do the same thing here. Then we're going to set the padding left to 4. So this is actually strange, but it's actually 4 that will actually make sure it actually aligns properly. Alright, because it's almost in line. Alright, then we're going to do the same thing here. Now this value shall be 25. So that 25, apply. Alright, that's not actually aligned properly. Alright, now here the value shall be negative 40. What a strange value. That's actually the value that actually makes sure it's actually aligns properly. Negative 40. Then here we're going to do something, but this shall be negative 32. Strangely, that's actually what makes it align properly. Then lastly here we're going to have 13, so it shall be positive 13. This shall not be a negative, shall be a positive 13. Then click OK. Let's actually preview all these quickly. As you can see, it's actually working well, and every submenu is actually now aligned properly, just as we wanted. Alright, so our next step is make sure this space is actually within the middle here. Then we're going to select the whole Icon+Text widget. Then we're going to create vertical alignment of every item inside it. Then also going to do the same thing here. Click vertical alignment of every item inside it. So this is actually looking right as we wanted. Then let's stretch this down a little bit. Alright, that's actually looking good. Now we're going to do something. So we're going to select so make sure it's actually selected the whole Icon+Text widget. Then we're going to go here, we're going to look for the top margin here. Then we're going to set this value to 20. You know what, why not? Actually, let's actually make it even bigger. Let's set this to 30 so that everything is actually spaced down a little bit. Then we're going to do the same thing here. This shall actually also be spaced from the top by 30. So I need that space at the top. Then we're going to select this. So select this vertical layout here. Then we're also going to do the same thing, but here I'm going to increase this by 35. I think that should be enough spacing. Then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to look for this vertical layout here. Then we're also going to set that top margin spacing to 35. So let's make sure they're actually at approximately the same height. Let's actually increase the spacing between the items. Let's set this to, you know what, how about 10? I think 10 is too small. Let's try 20. Now going to do the same thing here. I'm going to try to space the items by 20. Actually, that will be too much. I want to make sure it's actually looking even compared to the other. Let's make sure it's okay. 15. You know what? 10. Alright, 10 does the trick, I believe. Let's actually preview this. Alright, see? I believe you can see what I mean. So I need to just increase this a little bit more. Let's increase this to 15. 15 should do the trick. Just to make sure they're actually spaced properly. I believe that's okay. So they're actually now looking much better. Now, next thing here is we're actually going to do some styling. As you can see, when I actually click on any individual, you can actually see that the rest are actually all clickable. So I actually want to change that. So I'm going to make sure each one of them is actually set to auto exclusive. So set this to auto exclusive. Do the same thing here. So I'm going to do that for each of the buttons. Alright, I'm going to go to where I have this button here, and then I'm going to copy something from the style sheet. So this is when an item is checked. And I'm going to copy that to this. So I'm going to put this right below. So I'll make sure that every time a button is selected, the same things actually happen. So click OK. So let's see what will happen in this case. As you can see, each button is clicked on exclusively and it works separately from the different other items. That's actually what I want in this case. Now we're also going to increase the spacing here between these two different items. Let's also set that to so we're going to also set this spacing to 20. Do the same thing here. Set this vertical layout to spacing of 20. Alright, that's looking much better. Then we're going to move this to the right a little bit. So select this horizontal layout, then we're going to move everything to the left a little bit. Let's increase this to 15. And I believe that at least does the trick. Let's actually do that 20. Okay, that's much better. Then we're going to space the items in between. Let's actually increase the spacing by, you know what, 20 also. Alright, so that actually does the trick. Now let's preview it all one more time. Okay, looking good. Alright, so now next I want to make sure that when an item here is checked, when an item here is checked, that this values here will also be checked also. So I'm going to go back to setting slots and signals. So now when this is checked, actually when it's toggled, we're actually going to set the other item to also be checked. We're going to do the same thing here. When this is toggled, we're going to set the other to also be checked. This is toggled, this shall also be checked, and so on. I'm going to do that for each one of them. Alright, let's go back. Forgotten to make that checkable. As you can see, when I check on an item, the item on the left also changes, and that's what I actually wanted. Let's do one more thing in this. So I'll make sure that when this logout is checked, when it's toggled, it will actually close the window. Same thing here. When this is toggled, it closes the window. Right. Preview that one more time. Alright, so it actually does the work. Alright, so lastly, I'm going to change the name of all these different buttons. So now this side, every button, I'm going to call this dashboard 1, and this shall be dashboard 2. This shall be institution 1, and this shall be institution 2, and so on and so on. So those object names shall actually be important. So this is dashboard underscore 1. Then this shall be dashboard underscore 2. So make sure to do the renaming for each one of them quickly. Then I'm going to do the same for the submenus here. So this shall be called student underscore info, and then we shall do the same for each one. So rename them according to the information on the buttons. Alright, so now that we're done with the renaming, we can now proceed to the second part of the project. So now we're going to insert a stacked widget. So we're going to search for stacked widget, and then we insert it to the side where we actually have the main screen. So now this is where the different pages will actually be changing. So now this is the stacked widget. So it shall be on this main screen. Let's make sure it actually fills up that screen. Right, that's looking good. Now we're going to insert a button, another button here. So the button shall actually handle the menu. So the menu shall actually be positioned right here. Then we're going to have two labels. We're going to have a label here and a label here. Then we're going to have a Q line edit. That shall be important. That shall have the search menu. Then let's actually duplicate one of these texts, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, and we're going to have that represent the profile right there. So now let's actually make changes here. Now first of all here, we're actually going to insert an icon. So we'll go where we have the icons here, and we're going to select the menu icon. So this is the menu icon right here. Click OK. Then we're going to delete the text, backspace. Then we're going to increase the height of the value. So it shall be 29 by 35. I think that's big enough. Alright, so that shall be it. Then I'm going to go into its settings. I'm going to set the border to none, because I'm only interested in viewing the icon. Alright, so that's actually looking better. So I'm going to change this text, hello, Mac. Then this shall be welcome to your page. Click enter. Let's actually view everything. We're going to increase this font size 15, set that to bold, and also going to increase this to font size 10. Then we're going to change the color a little bit. So we're going to right click, go to its style sheet, then we're going to go to where I have the color, then we're going to give it a little bit of gray. Let's click OK, apply. Alright, that's actually looking good. Then now we're done with that. We're going to go to where I have this search here, then we're also going to change its properties. So we're going to type in Q line edit, curly brackets. So first thing first, the items inside shall have a padding left of 20 pixels. Such shall be for the placeholder that we're going to place in. Then we're going to set the border to 1 pixel solid gray. And we're going to set the border radius to 10 pixels. Click apply. As you can see, it's actually working. Let's insert a placeholder. So a placeholder text shall be search here ... Alright, so that's it. Now we're going to insert the profile here. We're going to go to have the pixmap, select that, choose resource. We're going to look for a profile image. Here it is, click OK. Scaled contents. Then we're going to set the width and the height to 40 by 40. So it shall be 40 in width and 40 in height. Now set that also be the same thing for maximum and minimum width, 40 by 40. It's actually looking good now. Alright, so something we need to do again is we're going to set a maximum height for this. So now it's going to be set to 31. So that the height actually doesn't go below that. Set it here as 31. That's going to be very, very important. So now select this and that, then horizontal align them, and there we go. It's actually looking good. Then we're also going to vertical align these two. So now select this vertical alignment with this, then we're going to horizontal align these two. Right, that's looking good now. Then now here inside here, we're actually going to change this spacing. Let's reduce it to 0. That looks much better. Now we're going to insert some spacer here, a horizontal spacer here. So you need to have some space in between these. Then select the whole header widget, and then we're going to horizontal align everything. Alright, so that's actually looking perfect. Alright, so once we've done that, we're now next going to insert some text inside the stacked widget. So we're going to look for labels again. So this is going to be our label here. So now when you go into here, into the stacked widget, you can see that there are different pages. So there's page 1, page 2, and so on. So now we're going to have different pages. Now in page 1 here, we're going to change this text to dashboard. Then we're going to increase this font size to 25 so that it's actually visible. Alright, so now it's at size 25. Now I'm going to copy this. Now the dashboard is on the first page. Now the next page shall actually have the institution. So I'm going to go into page 2. Then we're going to paste that, type in institution. So now we only have 2 pages currently, so we're going to increase the number of pages. So we're going to insert more pages. Insert after current page, and we're going to do that until we have up to page 12. Alright, so now we actually have up to page 12. So now we're going to copy this text here, then continue to page 3. Page 3 shall now, we're going to now follow the submenus here. So now we're not going to include the heading value here, so it shall now be the submenus. For these that have drop downs, we shall be dealing with the submenus, and then for these we shall actually be dealing with the text at the top. So let's do that quickly. And lastly, we have the settings page. Alright, so we're done with all the pages. So as you can see, when I navigate through the different pages, something will happen. Now to connect these buttons to the different pages, that shall actually happen in the coding section. Alright, so next I'm going to select this main screen widget here, and then I'm going to go to where we actually have its sizes. So remember, its width is 841 by 741. I'm going to set that also as the maximum width. So this is going to be 841 as the width, and then the height shall also be set to 741. We're going to do that same thing for the minimum size. So this is 841 by 741. Alright, so there we go. Now have that selected, the main screen, then select also the header widget, then we're going to vertically align both of them. Now there we go. Alright, so now we have them vertically aligned together. Alright, so one last thing, we're going to go to where we actually have the icon only widget. Then I want to make sure that its maximum width is actually set to 71, so it actually doesn't go beyond that for the maximum width. So set this to 71, and this shall also be set to 71 for the minimum size. So once you have that, select this. So this vertical layout of the header and the main screen widget, select this icon text widget and then this icon only widget. Then we're going to actually set a grid layout for everything. So there we go. So now make sure that everything is positioned towards the top. Alright, it's looking good. Alright, so now maybe inside here I can actually now stretch this a little bit more. So now I actually need to increase the width here. Let's set this to 920 so that it's actually more visible. Then we're going to stretch the stacked widget. Alright, that's actually looking good now. Now here at the top, I forgot to do something. Now here, I actually see that space appearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a top margin of 25 and a bottom margin of 25. And I believe that should actually solve the mistake there. Now here, I actually want to push everything a little bit to the right. So select this horizontal layout, then go to where I actually have the right margin. Let's set that to 25. Alright, so that's actually looking good. Then one last thing, let's make sure that now this shall actually be active. So when a user clicks on this, something will happen. So go here, and then when a user clicks on this menu, we actually want to hide this menu here. So when this is clicked, we're going to set hidden. So we're going to hide that, click OK. Then when it is clicked the second time, this shall actually be made visible. So set this to visible. Alright, now go back, and then next we're going to make this checkable. So let's go down here, make it checkable. Now next, we no longer need this to be green. Let's go back to where I have the main screen widget, go back to its style sheet, then we can remove this background color and click apply. So we no longer need any background color there. Let's preview that. And as you can see, everything is working perfectly as we wanted. So as you can see, we have this menu showing, then we actually now have the drop downs in working. Alright, so now we're going to switch to Visual Studio Code. Alright, so with Visual Studio Code open, we're going to drag our folder in, just as we're doing right now. And now we have it. And now we're going to create some two files. The first one is going to be the main file. So this will help us to load and open the software. And then we're also going to create the front page. So the front page is what is going to load the information from the UI index file, just as you will see. So let's expand this, and now we're going to open our terminal. Alright, so with it open, we're going to type in PySide6-UIC, then we're going to type in the index.ui, so that's our UI file. Then we're going to convert into UI index.py, then click enter. Alright, so there we have it, drag it in, and here is our UI index file. So this represents the code of the front page. Alright, so next we're going to convert our resources file into a Python file. So type in PySide6-RCC, then type in the name resources.qrc. Then the next code is -O, and then we're going to type in the name of the file resource_rc.py and click enter. And then now we have the file. So here's the file. Alright, so next we're going to drag the front page in, and then we're going to be typing some code. So this shall be representing the data on the UI index file in a more simplified version. Then here is the main. So this is all going to type in the code first. Alright, so let's make some imports from PySide6.Qt widget. So we're going to import. So from this package, we shall import QMain window, comma, we shall also import QMenu. And this shall be useful later. So from PySide6, this is the next import dot. Now this is going to be the GUI file, Qt GUI. We're going to import QAction. So this action shall be important later on. Then next we're going to now import this class here. So from UI index. So this is going to be very important for us to represent it. From UI index, import UI main window. Alright, so next we create a class. The class shall be called my sidebar, and it inherits from QMain window and UI main window. Then inside here we're going to create the init function, the constructors. That's what we're defining, super.init, and then after that we're going to set up UI. That's going to be very, very important, so make sure you actually type this correctly. Next we're going to set the Windows title. We're going to call it sidebar menu. Alright, so now we're going to create the main file. Now inside here we're going to first import from PySide Qt widget. So we're going to import QApplication, and then next we're going to import the class from front page. So we're going to bring it in my sidebar, then import sys. Next we're going to create an instance of the QApplication. We're going to call it app. So there it is. Next we're going to also create an instance of my sidebar class, so we shall call it windows. So windows.show, and then we're going to type in app.execute. Now one thing else that we need to do is we need to convert this file here. We're going to need to convert its encoding, otherwise before we run this app we're going to have an error. So what we'll see is every app comes with actual UTF-16 encoding, and then in most cases that won't work, so we need to change this. So we're going to save with encoding, and we're going to have to change that to UTF-8, and it's as simple as that. Now you can see it has changed to UTF-8. So once we've done that, we can now run our application. So go back to the main file, then we're going to run Python file. So click run, then just give it a second and it's going to load. So our app has loaded, and you can see the icon only and then the icon with text widgets both showing at the same time. So that's something we're going to correct in the code, so that one of them is hidden and not both pop up at the same time. So now here everything is working just as we wanted, and as you can see every setting is actually preserved. When you click on the menu it actually opens, and as you can see this is the icon only widget. Everything is working, so we just need to work on the functionalities in that case. Alright, so let's go back to the front page. Alright, so first thing I want to do is to hide the icon only widget when the app actually begins. So we're going to call it, so remember it was called self.icon only, icon_only widget dot. We're going to set it to hidden. We're going to set hidden to true and make sure that it actually hidden at the very beginning. And as you can see, we only see the icon_text widget at the very beginning. So that is how we actually correct that. Now next we need to deal with these drop downs. We realize that by default they actually show, so I want to make sure that they're actually hidden by default. So that's what we're going to correct next. As you can see, each one is actually open at the very beginning of the application, and that's actually not realistic. So we're going to correct that. Let's go back to the front page and correct that. Alright, so now we're going to make a call to the submenu. So remember the names were actually given to the frames that actually hold the submenu. So the first one, remember, was called student_dropdown. So those are names we gave them, set hidden to true. Then we're also going to do that for the teachers drop down and also for the finances drop down. So change this to teachers, then we're going to change this one to finances, and now leave everything as true and go and run the file again, and let's see what happens. As you can see, they are closed by default, so until we click open. So as you can see, when we click on this it actually opens up, but they were actually closed or hidden by default, and that's actually more realistic, just as you wanted. So it's actually as simple as that. So this is working properly, and you can open any at any instance, even while others are visible. It really doesn't matter. You can even leave all of them on at any moment in time. So let's actually continue from here. Alright, so now next we want to actually handle how the pages are actually handled. Alright, so we're going to set up the methods that actually allow us to switch to different pages. These actually manage the StackedWidget. So the first method shall help us to switch to the dashboard page. So we're going to write def switch to dashboard page, then going to write in self in brackets, and inside here we actually now self call the StackedWidget, set the current index to 0. 0 means the first one, and that's where we'd actually put the dashboard. Now next we're going to call the two different dashboard buttons. Remember, dashboard 1 and dashboard 2, and then we're going to create some signals. So when they are clicked, so when you click on dashboard 1, for example, it will switch to dashboard page, and then also when you click on dashboard 2 it should do the same thing. So next, let's duplicate this. Let's handle also the institution page, set this to index 1, and then we're also going to set this to institution 1 and institution 2. So now these are going to be the first two samples, so I have to make sure it actually works properly. So this will switch to institution page. So let's actually run this and see. Alright, so when I click on the dashboard, you can actually see what happens. Now this switches to institution whenever I click on that, and then it's the same thing here. When I click on dashboard 1, you can actually see what happens also when I click on institution 1. So it's actually working. So now that we've done that, we can now do that for the rest of the different buttons on the side menu. Let's do that very quickly. Alright, so now we're going to handle switching to the different pages. So now there is the student info page, the student payments page, the students transactions page. So set those indexes right. Then the teachers info page. Now we need the teachers salaries page, then the teachers transactions page. Make sure the indexes are correct. Now next is handle the finances, the budgets info page, the expenses info page, then the business overview page. And then lastly, we're going to have the settings page. Set that to index 11, and now next we're going to handle the different buttons. Alright, so now we're going to make a call to different buttons. So now we have that for the students info, that for the student payments. So that's going to be very, very key. So this is for student payments, then that for the students transactions. So now change this so that they actually match. So it shall be students payments, that shall be students transactions page. Now make a copy of this. We're going to do that for the same thing as that for the teachers, and then switch this to actually to be the correct methods. Alright, so once we're done with that, let's do that for the finances, for different buttons in the finances side of it. So budgets, expenses, and business overview. And make sure that actually these match so that they're actually correct. Alright, so now when it comes to settings, we actually have settings 1 and settings 2. So change this settings 1 and that shall be settings 2. Then this shall actually make a call to the settings page. Now once we're done with that, let's go back and run our application again. Let's see what happens this time. As you can see, when I click on this, you can actually see it actually switches to the right page that actually matches with that. Let's actually click on this drop down. Then as you can see, when I click on student info, that happens. Student transactions, let's look at that for the teachers info, teachers salaries, teachers transactions. It's actually working properly. Do that for budgets, business overview, working well. Let's go back to the icon only widget. Let's see what happens. Now as you can see, we've not actually set anything for the students and for the teachers and finances on this page. It's because here we should have context menus on the side, so don't worry about that. That's what we're going to deal with next after this. But the most important thing is everything is so far working as we expected. So we're going to now scroll below, and then here is where we're going to create our context menu. So we're going to create methods called the context menu. So now the first method shall be that to show the students. So these are the methods to show the context menu. So the first one is students context menu. So this is where we're going to create it. And now let's first leave a pass because we are now going to fill it up after. Now let's actually work on the method that actually creates or shows the context menus, one that each other that we shall actually make a call to. So we shall actually just show it the button and the menu items whenever we actually need it. So let's create an instance of the QMenu. So we shall call that menu, and then now inside here we're actually now going to style up the menu as we want. So now we're going to set the style for the menu. So now that we're going to set its style sheet. So now inside here we're actually going to add comments. So now inside here we're going to now set the QMenu. So it's actually going to have a background color of black. That's what I've actually chosen. Then now we're going to set the color of the text to white. So let's actually add those comments. Now we also want to make sure something happens when the QMenu is selected. So in selected, we're actually going to have another background color. So it's going to be set to white. So that's going to be the menu items. Then the color of the text shall be changed to some form of green, and those are the coordinates right there that shall actually be using. So now we're going to add the actions to the menu. That shall be the next step. But before we do that, let's actually first go back to the students menu and actually add some items. So now we're going to make a call to that show custom context menu from here. So now when we make a call to it, we're actually going to give it the name of the button, and then we're also going to give it the name of the menu items that we've actually decided. So make a call to it, show custom context menu. Then we're going to call the button. So remember the button is student1, self.student1. That's actually the name of the button on the icon only widget side menu. So students1, and then now inside here we're actually going to create a list. So this shall be a list that represents the menu items. So now the first menu item shall be called student information, the second one shall be called students payments, and then the next one shall be called student transactions. So make sure those commas are actually correct. So the next one is student transactions. Alright, so that's going to be very, very important, because that's what shall be needed by the show context menu method every single time we actually make a call to it. Alright, so now next we're going to iterate through those menu items. Now we're going to call a loop. So for item text in, so we're going to call the text inside the menu items that we're actually having. So we're going to create an action for each of the menu items that we actually collect. So this is going to be an instance of QAction, and then that's going to be very, very important. Now next, type in action.triggered. So something should happen whenever any of the actions is actually triggered. Now we're going to make a call to another method that we're actually going to work on. So .connect. Now we're actually going to need to create another method that actually handles all those actions. Alright, so we're going to call that method handle underscore menu items when they are clicked. Now this is how it's going to look. Now inside here we're actually going to use the sender method to actually call. So we're going to make a call to the text from multiple buttons. So that's why we're going to make use of the sender. So this is usually used. So we're going to select the text from multiple actions that could come from the menu. So now we're going to make sure that if text is student information, so it will check for what text is there. So that text is student information, it's going to switch to, want it to switch to the student info page. And then if that text is now set to student payments, so that is the other case, we're actually now going to switch to the student payments page. Actually that's at the top. Alright, and then lastly for the students, we're actually going to now check if that text is student transactions, it's going to switch to the student transactions page. So that's going to be very, very useful. So now let's make a completion here. So now let's make a call to the right method. So self.handle menu item when clicked. So we shall make a call to this method. So when it's actually triggered, it will check for that text. Alright, so now next we're going to add these items to the menu. So we're going to add the actions to the menu. So now remember that the instance was called action. So now add it in. And now next we're now going to decide the position in which the menu will actually be displayed. So that's going to be very, very critical at this stage. So now we're going to show that context menu. So type in menu.move button.map to global. So now we're going to actually map it. So remember we're deciding it's going to be placed on the top right side, and then we're going to execute it. Alright, so now we can scroll to the top, and we want to make sure that something happens when we actually click on the students1 button, so that it will show the different items of the context menu. So now self.students1, so when it's actually clicked, we'll actually connect it to that method of the students context menu, so it should actually show. Now go back to the main, and then let's actually run our Python file. So let's see what happens. Let's go back to the icon only menu, and then let's see what happens. As you can see, it actually displays correctly. Now what happens when I click on this, you can actually see it switches to student info page, this switches to student payments page, and then this should switch to student transactions page. So now that that works, we can now do the same for the teachers and the finances pages. So now for that, we're just going to copy and paste and just make quick changes. So now here we're going to duplicate this, and then we're going to have that for teachers, then we're going to have that for finances. So this is going to be swapped. We're going to edit the information. This shall be for teacher. Alright, so now we're going to make changes here. So this is for finances. Then we're going to change the information on the menu. So it shall be teacher information. Then we're going to have teacher salaries. Then we need teacher transactions. Now here we're going to have budgets. We're going to have next expenses. Then we shall have budget. Business overview. So that's the correct thing. Now here we're also going to add more elif functions to check for all the other different texts. So we're going to have that for teacher information, So it will check for teacher salaries to actually make the correct changes. Then the next one shall check for teachers transactions in that case. So let's actually paste that. Then we're going to have that for budgets. Then we're going to have that for expenses. Then we shall need to have that for business overview. So now next we're going to change the methods that they call. So this shall actually switch to the teachers info page to call that method. This shall call the method of teacher salaries. This shall call the method of teacher transactions. This shall call budgets info. This shall call expenses info, and this shall call the business overview page. Now here I'd actually forgotten to do something. Let's actually make some corrections here. So this needs to be teachers 1 because that's the button that you should actually be dealing with in this case. So make sure to spell it well, teachers 1. Then this shall be finances 1. So that's very, very important. Make sure to correct that. Then we're going to scroll to the top here, and then we're going to add the 2 other buttons. So let's add actions for these 2 other buttons. So when teachers 1 is clicked, something should happen. Teachers _1, when it's clicked, something should happen. Then when finances 1 is also clicked, we're going to control what happens from here. So it will actually call it should call the teachers context menu in this case. So change this to teachers, then we're going to change this to finances. And once we've done that, I believe that everything should now work correctly. Let's go back. Then let's make a call, run the Python file. Let's go back to the icon only, and as you can see, it's actually working. It's actually making a call to that, and you can see our context menu is displaying correctly, and actually you can see it actually switches to the right page. So this is actually how I would actually do it in this project. As you can see, everything is working well. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope the video really helped you. If it did, feel free to share it with anyone that you can. And then if you're new to this channel, encourage join the community by subscribing, and then make sure to hit that notification bell so that you get updated every single time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video.